God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. This weekend we are faced with the 20th anniversary of the events of September 11th, 2001. It seems like time can't possibly have gone this far, that time has moved so quickly since those events. We remember in such graphic detail the horror of that day. Buildings being struck, buildings falling to the ground, ash, smoke, destruction, bent steel. The unimaginable loss of life, casualties before our eyes in a way that generations have not seen since, and that had been so long since we had seen on our own shores before that. Do you remember what you felt that day? The fear, the concern, wondering what would be next for our country, wondering what this means. We remember so many things about that day. We remember, of course, the loss of life. We remember the unimaginable casualties that happened that day. But we also remember the service, the sacrifice, the selflessness of first responders on that day. We remember how on that day we were simply just Americans together, united in a way that we had not been for so long, and that it feels like we have not since that day. We remember. We remember the sacrifice. And we thank God. We thank God for the picture that we had that day as we saw so many run towards rubble, run towards that building. Because we saw a glimpse of what it looks like when we are united together, living out the words of Jesus, serving one another in His name. We remember how fragile life is. We remember how desperately we need God, all of us in our country. We remember that in spite of what our eyes see, we cling to God by faith. We cling to the words of Psalm 46 that when buildings fall, when our way of life is lost, when life changes so dramatically because of events that happen right in front of our eyes, events that happen so close to home, as we remember Flight 93 and Shanksville, so close to our own city, we remember and we cling to the words of Psalm 46 that God is, God has been, God will be our refuge and strength, that He is always on the throne, that He is enthroned. We remember the words of the refrain of this hymn, "The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our fortress." Do you remember walking through these doors that first Sunday after the events of September 11th? Do you remember what it was like that day? Our elders met last night in our pastoral team, and we were reflecting back on what it was like that first Sunday, and someone shared that the words were spoken, "This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to be Christians, to live as Christians, to show what it looks like to be light in the midst of darkness." Dear people of God, we have confidence, we have hope, we have trust that Jesus is on the throne. We still have that very same opportunity before us today, 20 years later and 20 years from now, as we continue to remember. The opportunity is before us to live as disciples of Jesus, to put His words into practice, to show his love, to show his compassion to all those in need. And so as we remember this weekend, we lift up so many things in prayer to our God. We remember those lives that are lost. We remember those who still deal with grief, those who still mourn loss, even the loss of a way of life. And yet we thank God for continuing to rule and reign over all creation. We thank God for the opportunity to live as his people here in the United States. God bless you. God bless your family as we remember, as we pray together, as we thank our God for the opportunity to be his people. God bless you today.